Hey, welcome to episode 195 of the Titanforge podcast. I'm Dratnos, joined by usual hosts Tettles and Trell, and
Yo,
this
yo.
week by special guest Tobo. Yo,
Hey.
Tobo, of course, world first raider now, world first Fire Ack achiever with Echo. You can see by the Echo merch and displays. Is that four different Echo ones? Oh no, it's six in
Yeah.
line of sight
Well,
here.
we got the four behind me, and then we got like a signed one there and another one.
That's pretty good.
How many of those were taken from Race to World First events?
I mean all of them, I think, or maybe only like half of them actually. I think maybe some of them got sent to me.
Okay.
But yeah.
Cool. And then, of course, also TGP and MDI competitor as well, which is pretty exciting because you only started playing WoW a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, I don't even know how many years now. Maybe like 3 to 4, something like that.
That's it. That's
Holy
awesome.
Shit, I'm old.
It was the end of Battle of the Zaralor going into Eternal Palace.
That was
where
the
I
same time we
like-
started this podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right when we
Nice.
started.
yeah.
God.
Holy
That
crap.
is wild. Very cool, though. Very cool. So
Yep.
we've also heard rumblings. You played a lot of stuff in the past, right? You played Aug Evoker this tier, but before then you were playing Dev and all kinds of different specs, right? Like big multi-classing. We hear you might be healing soon. Is that true lore?
Not okay. I don't think it's going to be happening for raiding. That was spoken about in Scripe's like play review though. He was like, we're talking about it. But I mean the main thing was like, our healer quit our MDI team or he quit the game. So we needed a healer and like to fill in the fifth slot. So that ended up being me switching over to healer instead of getting in a new healer. And then we took in Hopeless DPS instead. So that's kind of where like the whole thing comes from.
And
It
so
also would have go on,
no,
sorry.
no plans to heal the raid at all?
It kind of like came up because it would have been convenient, I guess, with swapping over for MDI. So I would have like the characters on live and stuff, and also kind of maybe needed a healer, but that I don't think that's really gonna happen in Echo in raiding. So
Cool. Yeah, it's of course a pretty stacked healing roster already over there. So this week, of course, we've got the Race to World First to talk about. We also just kind of got a bunch of different topics, I guess, to jump around with. I do want to talk more about choosing your class, though, how you ended up like playing Aug and becoming an Aug person, because obviously that was like a new spec in the middle of the expansion. So like how was it decided that you would be one of the people to pick up Aug, and how did you end up being one of the like two Aug mains that saw play this tier?
yeah, so it kind of, I guess it started. I was like a boomkin right before Dragonflight release, I guess,
I'm sorry.
and and then
Kinda messed up.
well, we had like 4 boomkins or something, and me and Frago were part of that boomkin squad. And then when the expansion came out, it's like me and Frago get to make evokers, we're with the 2 evoker guys, and then Devastation ended up being really bad for the first raid, so we just played boomkin the whole time. But we still had those evokers, and then Frago turned into like a full evoker main after What Were the Incarnates, and then I was also kind of like half and half boomkin evoker. And then it kind of just sort of fell into place because we were like the only evokers in the guild. It's like, you guys are learning augmentation, and then it just sort of fell into place really. Like we were the 2 main evokers, and then we had other people rerolling like Salted and Mason. They would have been 3rd and 4th if we played 4. So yeah.
It's kind of interesting because some people have, I don't want to say necessarily mains, but you're gonna get Gingy on mage every single tier, that kind of stuff. What is it like in Echo to like actually like re-roll, just as like what the guild's needs progress over time? Like, because you're one of the, like, you and Frago, I feel like, are the people who end up re-rolling to just kind of whatever is good every single tier.
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of the ranged flex players, I guess you could say. But we have some people that play Mage and Warlock. There's a couple of those, and then yeah, I mean that's kind of it. Like it was just like the Boomkin players were like kind of the flexible ones, and then we got put onto evoker. As more raid slots get locked in over time. It kind of
I thought it was interesting that you guys did both of your boomkins swap to Aug, and also Liquid's boomkin swap to Aug. Like it was the same situation. Do you think that was because of like just the performance of boomkin was doing that tier, or is that just like a similar playstyle? Or
kind of like everyone played so many boomkins for so long, and then they just got worse and worse over time. Also, the 1 minute stampeding rule change kind of changed things up a lot. I think that meant you'd never really take 3+ for raws anymore. You kind of like 2 is kind of the most you're ever gonna need. So it's like a combination of evoker coming out, and it's like who's actually gonna play this, to having like a surplus of boomkins and them getting like worse over time. I would say combination.
Yeah, because back in last expansion, you'd play like 4 Venthyr Boomkins or whatever on some of those, and now it's down to 0 or 1. That's interesting. Did you enjoy the Aug play style and setting up all the Aug timings and having the the special raid frames or whatever that were made for you? Was that fun?
So actually playing the spec, I feel like was really fun. I feel like it plays pretty good. The TSF feels good and everything. Pressing the buttons is good, but setting up all the prescience reminders and timings and checking cooldowns and logs and all that stuff was not fun at all. Really, really terrible, I think.
I hear that a lot. Like I hear Augs are just staring at a spreadsheet on their third monitor or something like half the time they're playing.
Yeah.
Do you find it more fun in M+?
Yeah, in M+, it's like you just play the game. Like you're not doing this mini game on your second screen for the whole progress. That's
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't sound. Our Augs have also been complaining about that. So okay. Yeah. Let's see, Tettles, you got anything related here, or do you want to move on to the next bit?
I mean, I don't really have too much else. I do think it's been kind of interesting though, the shift in the meta for raid that we've seen over time. I think this expansion was the first one where pretty much everybody had like a raid buff, where last expansion only certain specs, and then obviously you end up consolidating a lot of, or like you end up spreading around a lot of specializations, and you have a couple of people flexing between then only a few specs, it feels like.
Yeah, I think it's been a trend that's even been in the middle of the expansion, right? They like added a bunch of raid buffs. They added the Hunter raid buff, the second Paladin raid buff, right mid expansion. Although the Paladin one didn't work until a couple weeks ago. The Red Aura just didn't work. Now it does.
Yep.
Okay.
That's
funny.
It was like before it was super bugged, so it was proccing all the time, and then they broke it in the other way, so it was really bad, and then they broke it back in the original way, so now it's really good again.
Just procking too much, or I guess it's just like auto procs or whatever.
Yeah, it's procking. I think it's procking too much right now, from what I was told.
Yeah, I remember the first week of this patch, my guild was trying to figure out, like, they're like, okay, go get, sit down and get autoed in the back so you could proc this thing. It just doesn't work. It still doesn't happen.
Yep.
Very weird. Very funny.
Dude, our guild was like blaming the tanks, like, you're not proccing Ret Aura, man. Like, like, figure this out.
Stop pressing your defensives.
Yeah. Take more damage.
That was us too. Yep. Okay, speaking of funny things this first week, do you remember the joys of seed farming this patch? How did you enjoy that? And what was the experience like planning and then executing the seed farming plan in Echo?
It was quite fun. I think I really enjoyed. We were just sitting there without streams on or anything. It was just us like gaming, like farming these seeds for. I don't know how long it actually took. Maybe it was like. I think it was like 10 hours of seed farming or something. Maybe not quite, but like 8 hours or something like that. We were just sitting there, developing the route and planning stuff for like where to go with the path for all the seeds. I think that was pretty fun. I don't think it played out very good though with the way that they nerfed the seeds and everything, that was very messy for sure.
Yeah, I think the nerf or the like changing how it works after the first day so that it was harder, and then punishing all the people who like exploited it. But if you just didn't play the first day, you were kind of forever behind on it. It was kind of cursed.
I have a question. How much did this seed farming actually matter for you guys? Because like this is one of those things that was kind of interesting, because obviously the race world first guilds are going to min max everything. Like how big would you even say the seed farming was?
I mean, I think it was pretty good in the end. Like, we weren't sure if it was going to be good because we didn't know if it was going to go to the second reset, or if it was going to be super important after the second reset, let's say. But we were pretty deep into the second reset, so quite nice, I think it was. And it also helped our power and splits a bit. We just sent the upgrades on ults.
And that's because you used 2 enchanted worms crest, right? From Renown 20?
Yep.
The second one on the second reset? Okay.
Yeah, that was
the Farak one on the second
reset. Yeah, there was one
reset,
from Farak and one from the 20 Renown. Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
Yeah, those enchanted worms crest were big this tier. It's such a weird tier because I've created a third enchanted worms crest like this week or whatever to make a socketed ring, which is strange, right? Like compared to last patch where the enchanted worms crest were just not it, but this time around, they're definitely it.
It was like obviously the best choice in Abyss to craft an aspect item.
Aspects.
Yeah, and this patch it was like, oh, what are you doing if you're thinking about crafting a aspect item? I mean, for some people it was actually better, but it was very, very rare, I think.
Yeah, the only instances where it was correct is like the toxic boots, because you get a full power embellishment from your toxic patch on your other item, regardless of item level, right?
Yeah. Yeah, some cases like that for sure, yeah.
Let's talk rollbacks for a second. Did you see the exploit of the seeds at all? I mean, obviously, I don't think that Echo had too many people who actually got rolled back, right? I think it was only 2 people.
Yeah, I saw this. They were very... Our 2 players were very not happy about this because they actually did not... they did not exploit. They just just got rolled back, like, randomly. Yeah, they just got hit.
That is tragic, actually.
That's what they tell you. That's what they tell you. They're
Well, they were in the raid group with us, right? Like, we have a full board of us flying around picking these seeds for hours, and they were there, and there's no point using the exploits for alts or something. So, they just got randomly hit.
Yeah, I wonder what randomly targeted them as opposed to other people in your group.
It was just to send a message, of course.
Yep.
That's good.
They had some weird names or something that they were like, these guys, let's take them out.
Yeah, that's really funny. Yeah, it's a weird thing to be going on at the start of this race, but at the end, I think it didn't really matter that much, right? Like it was mostly for making splits a little bit easier, which the splits did look pretty hard. The helper Smoldrons, helper Tendrils, those seemed actually to be pretty challenging. What was the experience like being in those splits?
I mean, we were like the first day of splits, we were like, man, we need to like speed this up a bit because we would just kick 1 or 2 people and go for like the less chance of the items, and it was just like we just gotta go quicker instead of more efficiently at this point. But it was mostly fine. I think it was a little bit awkward when some groups were like chain wiping on Smoldron or Tendril or something. It was like, man, why are we doing this? It's so awful. But yeah.
How about the NA debate
gosh.
at the start of the tier? Were you a part of that? Were you one of the members of Project Albatross?
I was Chicken Little, the evoker. That's me.
That's good.
That's such a good name too.
Yeah.
Was that fun to do?
It was fun. It was a little bit like it was a little bit annoying to just make an extra character, I think, but it ended up being pretty fun, and the viewership was good, I think. And then we just did the one raid all the way through, and then went to bed. That was it.
So that was just a content play for World First Normal, right? Like that wasn't anything else.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, there was like other benefits to it. Maybe testing weak auras, whatever. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I heard there was a plan to like test normal Firac off stream, but then the lockout didn't work out or something, and so
something like our character was like left the raid, but was like still in the raid when we pulled the boss or something. Like it was like in the loading screen for the Hearthstone, but we're still in the raid, so they got locked out.
Oh,
So,
gosh.
Oh man,
brutal.
Yep.
I thought that was really cool. You guys did that. I think
Mhm.
that's got to be valuable to just like get a feel for the boss room and the abilities and whatnot, and then go to bed and then do it for real the next day.
Yeah, because it's one thing like seeing the boss room in a picture, even like good pictures of the boss room. It felt way different. Like the boss platform felt way bigger than it looked, I guess, when you're actually playing.
Yeah, that is one of the things about
Just small
Firac. It's a huge boss room, actually.
Yep.
And then you do need all that space. So, how did you guys determine how good Aug was going to be this tier? And like, what were you thinking before that last nerf, the like 8% to 6.5% thing? How was all that like in the lead up in the last few months of prepping for the actual race?
I mean, everyone, like all the guilds were going to play 4 evokers, I'm pretty sure, before those nerfs, and then because that was like actually the best DPS, I think. It was kind of close, like, yeah. And it was also a lot easier than playing 2, because when you play 2, you have to swap around the buffs and everything. But then it got nerfed, and also the logs got like completely bricked on the patch as well. So we were like, plan went down to 2, and then we were like, well, it was weird because it was like, is this class even good anymore? People were talking about, and yeah, we actually went down to like 1 evoker at one point, but
that was weird. Yeah, I remember that during Prague. It was it seems like a number you kind of always want 0 or 2 or 4, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's easy to not know. Like, I mean, Tobo had a tweet that was after the race talking about the augmentation log hooks and stuff like that. And I think it's really difficult to tell how good or bad the specialization is just without it, without being able to look at it in logs right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because if you look at stats, right, it looks like it's pretty bad. Hang on, let me pull up the workout
It's
log
actually
stats.
bottom, right?
Yeah,
it's by far bottom. It's like not even close.
Yeah.
You look at Windwalker down there. It's almost
as bad as Windwalker. Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, it's actually doing more than this still. Even though they've tried to like fix the log hooks a lot, it's still just not.
I think some things have actually improved since progress, but not all.
Yeah.
Whenever Prague started, I remember every single Aug evoker would legitimately be doing tank damage, like out DPS by Vengeance Demon Hunter and shit like that.
Yep.
Which is like
it's
crazy.
The 3rd most popular spec as well behind BM and Havoc, but it's the bottom on Warcraft log stats. That's really good.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Sick.
Yeah.
How good do you think it was actually? Like not what's showing here, but like relative to rogues, hunters, maybe.
I mean, I think I was like, if I had to guess, I think I was like either topping or with the top people on DPS. But no one's gonna believe you when you say that. My guild definitely would not believe me if I said that. But yeah.
I mean, it's just weird because like before the log hooks got broken, and like if you look through all the PTR testing before the hooks got changed, Aug evoker was like by far top DPS, and then it's like, oh, the hooks got changed, and then it's bot fragging next to the tanks. Like something's wrong.
Yeah. Something completely changed overnight, and then it was like, guys, are we gonna play the spec anymore? I had to convince some people that it was actually good.
Okay, how about so obviously like there's the raid testing period, right? You get to test all the bosses on Mythic for an hour or 2. You get to test them all on normal for that like full weekend. How do you guys go about like the times that you're not testing and the boss that you can't test, Firac? How do you prep for that in the off season, right? During the lead up to the patch?
I mean, there's a lot of speculation about how the mechanics work and diagrams that were like, maybe it works like this, then we have a plan. It's definitely interesting with the bosses that you can't see. But I mean, I would say most of the time, obviously, goes into the boss that you can see and drawing up all the pictures and making all the strategies ready for day one mythic progress. You know, like the officers make strats that we would actually kill the boss with from just like 1 hour of PTR, like 1 hour of PTR plus prep after that. Yeah,
Makes sense. Okay, this week we're gonna. Oh, God.
Oh, you play a decent amount of Final Fantasy, right?
yep.
Would you prefer blind prog of the raid?
I mean, I think everyone would, to be honest.
Yeah, like no PTR, no dungeon
journal.
Even if it was just like, even if all the PTR prep, because there's so much PTR prep, right? Even if that didn't come into it, it would probably just be more fun to like go in not really knowing anything.
I'm not sure they could get away from the journal. I do think that they could maybe get away from PTR at some point.
Yeah, I mean, there was some talk, like Max had some idea with one boss supposed to be really hard without a dungeon journal or something.
Yeah, let me see if I can find his.
That'd be pretty cool, yeah.
Without a dungeon journal, that'd be wild.
Because they've been doing the same kind of testing environment with just like not letting people see one boss on PTR. They could do that with the dungeon journal too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, his idea is for like a one that happens on the tournament realm that is just like over a weekend, like it gets released globally at a time on Thursday or Friday or Saturday or something, and then you try and kill it, you know?
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's a cool idea as well, although obviously like make a whole boss, make it work without any testing is a high bar to clear, I'm sure.
I will say for live as well, there's also a question of like, even if there isn't a dungeon journal, would there be enough data mining on the abilities for there to be effectively a dungeon journal in Wowhead or something like that before it comes out?
Yeah, that's super weird. Like, I don't know. I think there is tech with them hiding abilities, but someone even said this is like it's hard for them to hide something and then show it at a later date. Like hide something until it's released or found or something. I think that's hard for them to do, but obviously I'm not really knowledgeable on that stuff. So
they just need to make like 400 dummy abilities and put them in the data associated with the boss, and you know they all have realistic names and effects.
Just a bunch of question marks, like Mira's looted the legendary and is still like a question mark icon.
The placeholder Mira left. That was good. Yeah,
that was a good one.
That's cool. Okay, moving on to more raid questions, I guess. What were you guys thinking the difficulty of the raid was likely to be? Like, were you ready for it to be a full 2 reset race, or were you guys planning to try and win it in the first reset after Aberrus?
I mean, I think every guild kind of expected it to be way easier than it was. Like even people thought Tindril was going to be 10 pulls or 20 pulls or something.
Oh,
with
true.
My god!
If the same boss that was on PTR was pushed into live, you know, it would have been like that, right? Like that boss was very easy. Plus, having all this timers and practice on the boss, but in reality, it turned out to be very, very different, like from PTR. So
yeah, that boss is something else.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of interesting that they will like buff or nerf bosses like as the raid progresses. I think that Blizzard's been doing a better job of making sure that their raid tuning is more in line with what they're expecting. While the race to World First is going on, buffing and nerfing it relative to what your guys' gear looks like. It's been kind of interesting to see because I mean they're so willing to make changes while the race is occurring.
That's the wrong one. I went to the wrong scene. Okay, I figured it out. I figured it out, you guys. I went to our 3-person scene, but yeah, here's the Tindril nerfs, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was during Prague even, right?
Yeah. This was mid-Prague nerfs to Tindril, yeah.
This was to make the boss not take another 1,000 pulls.
Well, some guilds already took 1,000 pulls.
I mean, maybe it would have taken an extra 1,000 pulls on top of what we had already without these changes.
Yeah.
some guilds did definitely break 4 digits though.
It's crazy the 20% reduction in health that the boss took here as well, and like where it dies now is still so close to. It's not a hardened rage, but it's like brutal mechanics at the end of the fight that you'd get. I think this was a really good nerf though. I think it was really well like aimed. They only nerfed the P3 seeds as well, so that the P2 prog wasn't invalidated. I thought that was really clever. I think this is this plus the Fire Act nerfs as well, right? We saw the Colossus health nerf on Fire Act, and then the 4% boss HP nerf, which we panicked when we first saw this, right? Like everybody was like, "Oh my god, Echo have to stay up until they kill it now, right?"
We're gonna stay up and kill the boss.
Oh my god.
Yeah, what was it like? What was that decision like? What was the night of the Fire Act? 4 a.m.
Everyone was so tired. It was crazy. I mean, the boss could have died randomly. It's kind of one of those bosses, which is why it was why we stayed up, I guess. And then it was just like, it's just not gonna happen. We're not being consistent at all right now.
Yeah, it must have been tough to like at 2 a.m. decide to keep going, right? At 3 a.m. decide to keep going.
Yep.
I will say, as somebody who was watching completely from the outside, not and like just being able to watch both Liquid and Echo, I was sitting there like, this seems kind of weird because it felt to me like Liquid was in a kill or lose situation, and then you guys decided to stay up, and I'm like, holy shit, I don't know why this seems just insane. But like, if you guys killed it that night, that would have been even crazier if you guys were able to clutch it out, because you guys had insanely consistent P3 pulls up until like maybe 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, we were playing good until I guess the fatigue hit at some point, or I don't know, like you get into a bad like couple hours, and then it's like, you just keep like not reaching P3. It's just it like spirals a little bit until you break through the consistency again. But kind of hard to do that, I guess, at 2 a.m. And that's why it didn't really happen.
Yeah, it was
that was
okay.
I was just gonna say that was awesome to watch. Echoing what Tuttle said, like a bunch of my guildies and I were watching, and we're like, man, they need to go to bed. They need to get up and just slam tomorrow morning. And then it ended up happening, and it went like all day the next day too. It was so sick.
Yeah, I mean, we killed the boss at like, was it midnight or 1 a.m. or something?
Yeah, it was 12:20 a.m. Yeah.
Both guilds at 1.7% best pulls, I think.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That was wild. That was such a good finish. But that was kind of the fourth night you were up past midnight, was the night you killed Fireack. Then there was obviously the day before that you tried to kill Fireack. There was the day you killed Tindril, which was also
dude, the Tindril day.
The day you woke up at 5 a.m. and killed Tindril the next day at like 12:05 a.m. or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the Laradar incident as well. The stay up for an extra 2 hours trying to kill Laradar and eventually doing it. Was that so? Were you guys more willing to stay up late because of like Aberrus, where I felt like in Aberrus maybe you were sleeping too much and not, and the race ended while you still hadn't stayed up at all on any extra nights? So was that like a reaction to that?
Yeah, maybe there was like some people were like, what you could really feel it on Farek when we went to 4 a.m. When the nerf happened. It's like, guys, this is a Sarkareth or something. It's like we need to. Actually, it was when we went dark. Actually, is what I'm thinking of.
Okay.
It was like, guys, this is a Sarkareth. We need to turn off the stream and then we do this progress. And then win the next day or something like that. But yeah, I think that definitely stemmed from how the previous year went. It was like kind of influenced some decision making. Maybe, I mean, even like going back to Broodkeeper, we stayed up late to kill that boss in the same kind of style as Tindril.
Holy moly, I forgot about that.
That was like till 1 a.m. or something like that. Same kind of style.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like the idea has definitely been there before, but there were some decisions influenced by the previous year for sure.
Yeah. Do you feel people like playing worse and yourself? Do you feel yourself like playing worse when you're up that late, or do you think you're pretty good at this point at like, popping a Red Bull or whatever and tanking it?
I mean, I was popping Monster at that point, and I was like I need this to actually play and not fall asleep. um, I definitely think I play worse when on that little sleep. I think other people were like, maybe it's just even like a mental thing. It's like I'm so underslept, so I'm gonna play worse. It's like kind of already in your head, but I feel like that was the case. Maybe other people will argue otherwise, but yeah.
So what happened with like? Were you guys like sick at the event, or was it just Zalia?
So there was me getting sick.
You got sick as well. Okay.
Yeah, actually there was like Just Wait was sick before he flew.
I saw that he had COVID, right? And then he
Yeah.
eventually did not have COVID anymore.
Yeah, he like took a couple of extra days to get to the event basically because he was sick beforehand. Because we all like took COVID tests before as well. I tested negative before flying, and then I tested positive once, and then it was like, okay, go to the hotel, stay away. And
Damn.
I was actually sick, but then I had like 10 negative COVID tests, so thinking it was like probably a false positive, but I stayed in the hotel for like 5 days because I was actually like pretty sick already. So it's just kind of worked.
Yeah,
And
the
then
hotel had good
Zelia,
internet at least, right? So
that was actually something I was like unsure about, but it did turn out to be fine. And then Zelia was tested positive towards the end of Urus, and then had the one day on Tindril without him. Yeah.
You guys on death's door, like.
Yeah.
I guess it was like stop rating at like 7 p.m. or something like that, right? Too.
Um, I actually don't remember. I'm not sure.
I remember, yeah, and because you had the soul in on Holy, and you were auging the healers while you were playing with that Azalea as well, which must have felt
Yeah.
kind of weird, huh?
It was definitely weird, and there was a few like questions about it. I was like, people were like messaging me like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you buffing the healers or something like that?" Um, I was like, yeah, I don't know. Just
That's what
just
they told me
felt
to
like
do.
it.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think it was good for that day of progress though. It works pretty nice.
Yeah, I think it was a cool decision, a way to get like 4.5 healers or something,
I honestly, I missed that. I didn't even know Zaylee was out that day. That's pretty impressive. You guys had a pretty good day without one of your core healers.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sol came in and played really well, even though he's not like a traditional healer. I guess he's not like that was his first tier playing as like the fifth healer because we were lacking one. So I think he played really well for that. But we did have some places in progress where it was like, yeah, guys, we don't have a disc priest. Like tomorrow will be fine. But we were just wiping to like the one seed set. It was like with low healing or something. It's like, yeah, everything gets fixed when we're back to normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk about split situation for a little bit. Take a step back. How many characters did you guys prepare? Because I think I was talking to people at BlizzCon. And I think the rumor was that guilds were going to be prepping 12 characters for splits. Did you guys end up going through with that?
We had 11, and well, one NA character as well, I guess.
Okay.
So that was that, and then I think Liquid actually had 12 possibly, and that's where the 12 number comes from. I mean that sounds good in my head from what I remember, but seems like a long time ago to me.
Yeah, was that a lot, or I mean, obviously it is a
Seems
lot.
insane.
Was it
Yeah,
awful
it
or
was
fine?
I mean, actually playing the splits was kind of fine, but preparing 11 characters is terrible. Like, it takes so much time and so much effort, and it's so draining. It's crazy.
Especially since they were evokers. Did you have to get the legendary on all of them, or?
Yeah, well, that was kind of the plan, but then the item level increase actually meant that it didn't matter that much.
That's good.
which
That's
was
nice.
which was cool.
Okay, that's good.
Then it was like, actually, I think I got more evokers after the item level increase happens. It was like, yep, just get some more. Why not?
Makes sense. Okay. Let's see. Do we want to talk about specific bosses? Like, let's just talk. So the first 6 bosses all kind of died pretty fast, but there was the Laradar night of pulling that thing for 2 hours. Was that? Do you guys see that as a big setback? Like, was that something people were talking about afterwards, or is that something you guys got through pretty quick?
I mean, well, I mean, maybe it was like, I don't know if this was spoken about, but we kind of didn't have like a plan for that boss. You know, we didn't watch Liquid before we went in. We were just like, yeah, we're just gonna go in and kill some mythic bosses. And that was probably a mistake in hindsight, but you know, like it didn't really matter that much in the end, I guess, because there was just a point where I think Liquid were fighting like a really laggy, horrible Tendril, so then we caught up in that on time at that point.
Yeah, a couple hours both ways. That makes sense.
Yep.
I forgot there was bug fixing on both Tendril and
Smolderon as well. Yeah, Smolderon had the
Smolderon too,
explodey, the double exploding balls, which apparently still could happen up till this week. It just got rarer, but now
really?
apparently it's been perma-fixed.
Yeah.
TM. We'll see if it still
What
actually
was the
happens
bug with the
sometimes.
orbs?
They could just double explode and wipe your raid. Like one orb could explode
just
twice
one orb.
and blow you up. Yep, which is very cool. Speaking of Smolderon, how did you guys feel about that fight? We've talked a lot about Tindril and Fyrak, but obviously Smolderon was a bit of a real fight too, right? How was that one? How was playing that one?
I think the fight was cool, but I kind of had a bad time because I don't think I like played it that great, so I was kind of like in my own head, I guess, like when I don't know, when I'm like playing bad, it kind of like spirals, I guess, and then gets worse and worse. But I think the boss was pretty cool. It was also kind of awkward with the wakes from the not the healing absorb, but the other mechanic. I can't remember the name.
The geysers or whatever they're called.
Yeah. I think those were a little bit awkward to dodge. Maybe a slightly better visual on those would have been nice.
What did you think about the macro Seeking Inferno thing?
Oh, the private aura.
Yeah, I mean, it's always kind of interesting. It's like when we have the private auras, it's like, okay, how do we outplay the private aura? It's not like we don't actually just play the mechanic. It's like we're just trying to outplay the increased, it's like a mythic difficulty on weak auras or something. It's how some people described it like that before.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So I mean, private auras were used twice this tier, or weak auras that interacted with private auras were used twice this tier. This fight and for Rack. What did you end up thinking about private auras? I feel like they've just been a mistake. Is kind of, I believe, our opinion. We talked about it a little bit last week whenever we came back. Are you guys also the opinion that they've been kind of a mistake from like a race to world first perspective? Because you were the guys who you come up with the weak auras that we're able to use whenever we were progressing this fight.
I mean, it kind of depends. Like some of the private auras are like really harmless. Like even like I think I'm stealing someone else's take, but the firestorms on Farek, where you have to place them in a line and not stack them.
Okay.
It's like that's kind of like harmless. Like you would probably have a weak aura assigning that, but you can't. But we didn't do something crazy to try and make this macro, and then you have the spots assigned with some different weak aura. Like that didn't really happen. So I think that's kind of harmless. And then stuff like the Frek intermission is like not that fun to play with private auras, right?
Yeah,
because that one has the people that get targeted by the shadow cages, right? And it's private aura if you're targeted by the blaze
with
as well,
the shield
right?
Before.
Oh, that intermission.
Orbs.
Okay, yeah.
Orbs,
The fire and the dark debuffs.
Yeah, it's because it like auto assigns the fire versus the dark debuff, and like
so you just have to hit a macro if you're red, or it's either red or purple, right? You make your weak aura
Yeah,
work.
it was when you had fire. It would be like, yeah, guys, if you have fire, press the macro, and then
okay, so it's this right here in the middle.
yeah, this display here.
Yeah.
And then that sets up, but you need all 10 people with fire to click their macro, and none of the people with shadow to click their macros so that it works because it's a private aura.
Yeah. I mean, that's just kind of awkward to have to deal with, right? Like, if someone pressed it by accident that has shadow, it's like the weak aura is going to display wrong for every single person in the raid.
It just, I mean, that mechanic seems so weird that. Okay, so if they wanted to private aura it, maybe it's fine, but at that point, then I don't think you're supposed to assign like what debuff players are supposed to have, right? Then you're supposed to let them self-assign where they're going to stand around the boss. Yeah, to be able to soak the orbs.
Then you just do the same thing every time, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, it makes it more consistent, right? As opposed to having to think about it.
Yeah, but they want you to have to like, they want it to be reactive, right? They want you to not just be able to do the exact same movement every time.
Yeah, I guess that's maybe the point of the mechanic.
Yeah. I don't know.
This is a good example, though, of like a private aura making something basically impossible without weak auras, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the mechanic itself that's impossible without weak auras, right? Like, I mean, it's not impossible. You could do that mechanic without weak auras, and it would work 80% of the time if you just told people to like spread to the sides. But you don't want to just wipe 20% of pulls because your 10 left people all got shadow, right? Or like 8 of your 10 left people got shadow. So you can't realistically do that.
Something I think of is like, the jailer bombs, how we put them in this triangle with a big weak aura display.
Yeah.
Imagine if those were private auras and you just had to press, every single person had to press a macro that got them. It's like, it's just some mechanics maybe are really like damaging to have them on private auras, probably, I'd say.
Yeah, I think Firestorm, the Cleaves, the Blazes, all of those are like fine private auras, but the other stuff, it's made it worse, not better.
That actually like adds like depth to the fight, right? With those things being private auras, the Blaze and the Firestorm and stuff. It's like it's not taking anything away from the fight, and it's like adding a little bit, but it's just no chance of being overwhelming or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I agree.
Okay. Let's see. Anything else? Anyone want to talk about a bit about Fyrakk in particular? Was there anything you noticed about this fight, or that like did you enjoy this fight? Was this a good boss fight in your opinion?
Yeah, I really liked the last two specifically. Like, I think those were maybe my 2 favorite boss I've ever played.
Okay.
Possibly. I'd have to really think about it, but I did have a lot of fun on these 2.
Did you feel the pressure coming into Fyrakk? Because you guys were actually, I don't want to say like super far behind, but I want to say you guys were like 18 hours, maybe 16 hours behind at best case scenario.
At the start of Fyrakk?
Yeah, at the start of Fyrakk, because I want to say Liquid already had 55 pulls on it whenever you guys ended up downing Tendril.
It was actually kind of like, we saw that they were on Fyrakk and everything, right? And it was like, guys, the first phase looks pretty like strategy based, so it should be easy for us to catch up. Like, that was kind of our thinking. It was actually like fine in our eyes, I think, that we were a little bit behind, because it was like, this is our chance to catch up. Then turned out actually being the part where we caught up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you guys, I thought you guys played incredible in this fight, just as a whole. It seemed like your P1 was pretty much automatic towards the later half of Prague.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive how consistent you guys were.
The day that Liquid turned off their streams at like 60% or something, and then they turned them back on the next day, and they gained like 2% or something. That must have been a pretty sigh of relief as well.
It was like, I'm trying to place where that even was in the fight. That was like the start of P2, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it was
also
like
the night
first
that we
ads.
went dark or something. Or
Yeah,
was that before?
it was before you went dark. I think the night
Okay.
before you went dark, when they went dark.
Oh,
I think.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we knew that the ads were gonna be super hard. Like it's kind of hard. I don't think I thought about it too much, but the ad waves were like insanely hard, right? So that was kind of wasn't too stressed about that, I think. I'm also trying to remember if we even like knew what was going on at that point. I'm kind of struggling to remember.
I mean, I'm sure you kind of just are like in your own world in some ways, right? On this fight,
Yeah.
or not necessarily on this fight, but like during the race roll first, you're not necessarily paying attention to what.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
probably
paying
not worth
attention.
looking at their prog every day, every hour. That's probably not good. Not good for the mental. And then I guess we already talked about it, but then the time that the nerfs came in, right? The 4% fire rack health nerf and the decision to stay up and then waking up the next morning with them not having killed it either. That must have been a pretty big roller coaster, huh?
Yeah, it was kind of like they could technically kill it while we were sleeping after the 4 a.m. like after we set up to 4 a.m. it was like going to sleep, like they could technically kill it, but we didn't really believe it was like killable for them. And then it was still like a relief to wake up and be like, okay, thank God they didn't kill it. I actually think they had a 6% try from memory.
Yeah.
But then we found out that was actually an hour after we went to sleep that they had that. So it was like, okay, this could have ended up really bad, but
Yeah.
How was that night for you? Like, I know you guys probably were forbidden at watching streams. You were just like told to go to sleep, I'm assuming. Like, could you get some sleep that night, or were you just stressing?
I was so tired I went straight to bed. It was
Nice.
Yeah, I didn't look at anything. I was like, I'm out. Like,
Dude, it's
see
4
ya.
a.m. I don't know if there's.
I'd probably just pass out too, honestly.
Yeah.
And then I'd like jolt awake or something in the middle of the night and be like, did they kill it?
Yeah, I slept like all the way through. I went to sleep pretty quick. I think it was a pretty big success that night.
Well
for me,
done.
at least. But yeah.
What do you think about the seed passing mechanic on Farak as a general rule? Both the angry seeds and the happy seeds. Like, do you think that's a good mechanic, or do you think that that's something that's maybe a bit too hard for even like average cutting edge level guilds?
I did like the. I mean, it's also like a shout out to Halondrus, right? Like it's the same guy doing it, and no, he loves that mechanic, I guess. But I did like the mechanic on Halondrus as well. It definitely has been too hard for lower guilds on like Halondrus though. So there's something, but I don't know if there could be really like a balance. It's like a whole raid wiping mechanic on 2 players, you know, with those 2 people having like the sole responsibility. I don't know. It's kind of maybe hard to make it easier, but I do like it for us, I'd say.
Okay, are you okay with them nerfing fights after the fact? Because I think, I don't want to say a lot, but I do actually see a decent amount of comments where players will sometimes be upset that Blizzard is nerfing fights at all. I feel like these maybe aren't even people who actually participate in the fights, but they're like, the bosses should release as they are killed, and then they should never be nerfed or buffed ever. Like, nothing should ever change. What do you think about that?
I think that's something that they do well in like Final Fantasy. It's kind of, I don't know. It's like the standard is set and then it just stays the same all the time. But it's like achievable for everyone. But maybe the maybe some things in like the race are like a little bit unachievable for the lower guilds. So it's good for them to actually be able to progress through the fights and stuff. But also, I mean, I don't mind them nerfing fights after I've killed it because it just gets easier for me, right? Like when I'm doing 10 splits, I don't want to be fighting the hardest boss I've ever played.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be pulling Tindril again until they nerf it. I don't want to like until they nerf it again, right? Not just this week's nerfs, but
Some people actually said it got harder with the nerfs, right?
The feather change
the feathers
initially did. Now that it's 6 feathers, I think it's back to it's like the feathers are neutral, and then the P2 seeds are definitely easier, and the falling star damage is definitely noticeable too. So it's easier than it was for before those like pre nerf, but it's still very hard boss. Yeah,
I was talking to Relo yesterday, and he said their last pull of the day when they were changing that P2 they had the 4 plus sign feathers, and then P3 they had the 6 feathers because they got hotfix in the middle of their last pull.
Oh wow,
it was such a waste of our prog.
That was really funny. Yeah, that was a funny nerf to that boss, because of course one thing people didn't really talk about during Race to World First, but Tindral had a DPS taunt that happened just the whole way through, that you needed to taunt so that the 4 feathers would spawn out of the fire because they spawned behind the boss. And then just now, like 2 days ago, Blizzard made it so that they just spawned around the boss in a plus shape. But the plus shape was actually worse because that just puts 1 in the fire every time, unless you take the boss, really far from the fire, and then the poor augmentation evokers can't hit the boss if you do that. So they now made it so that it spawns 6 of them, and that way at least 4 of them should always be out of the fire, regardless of how it's facing, which is nice.
I mean, they should have fixed that. I don't think that there's a situation where realistically you should have DPS taunting a boss as part of the mechanic. That seems a bit.
I think it makes sense to target that. I do think the plus sign change though was short-sighted. That buffed the boss for guilds that had already progged that version, which is not good.
But it's good now.
Yeah, it is. It's fine now. Yeah. Okay, we've got a few Q&A questions to get to, but first we have to thank the supporters over on the Patreon, who we've got a couple of new ones as well. So thanks to everybody who's supporting the podcast now that we don't have our GG sponsorship anymore. They are: for the 5th day of Christmas, my Blizzard gave to me 5 super blooms, 4 missing enchants, 3 stupid belts, 2 Shadow Priest reworks, and 1 Aug Evoker in every key. That's nice. That's a nice song. Signet Brand doesn't exist. Is the last boss in Throne the hardest boss on Tyrannical in the current season? Tettles?
I don't
know.
I think the second boss of Everbloom?
Second boss in Everbloom. That one is annoying.
Honestly,
they nerfed that a lot.
The last boss of Throne is like only hard in a pug when people don't clear puddles, but otherwise it's a pretty easy boss.
Yeah, it's hard before you know what you're doing, and then when you know what you're doing, it's kind of fine, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you guys think is the hardest Tyrannical boss? Second boss Everbloom is very, very annoying if you don't have a prop paladin. If you have a prop paladin,
I'd say Yasma's up there.
Dude, I got one shot by Yasma yesterday.
I was gonna say Yasma's the hardest M++ I've ever fought, I think.
And if they just made Racking Pain a second one shot you have to watch out for, like, holy shit.
It's the tree.
It's crazy.
It's the tree. The tree doesn't have any counterplay. That guy sucks. I hate
first
that
boss
Tree's also
Everbloom?
pretty bad, yeah.
No.
Waycrest?
Soulbound Goliath.
Soulbound Goliath.
What do you mean?
Waycrest Manor.
You just never clear.
That guy's hard, but
just never clear. Just tank the boss, never go into fire. You know.
Have you done that in the high key? The
No,
thorns
he
have like
hasn't.
10 billion health.
It's
now.
really good in 20s though. In plus 20s, it's never clear.
it is hard. Yeah.
Let me tell you, it's a good strat. It's a good
Just
strat.
wait until you go in there, you zone in there, you got an Aug Evoker, it's like a 25, and you have to reset every second Soul Thorn, and you're like, this is miserable.
Oh, dude, when you have an Aug Evoker, yeah, and anybody else gets stunned, and you just have no damage for them, yeah. I feel like that dungeon you maybe aren't supposed to play Aug in. I don't know, Waycrest? Like, it feels really bad.
I think you zone
It's
out,
fine.
go Dev, and then you zone back out, and then go Aug again.
It's fine if you have like a mage or something that can blink all the
True.
roots.
Yeah,
True.
They gotta
or
fix
PvP
that.
trinkets.
Yeah.
Gotta fix that. Okay.
Oh, yeah, now that you can't cap form it anymore, you're trying to take everybody else with you.
No, dude, I actually don't even care. I do think that the lack of counterplay on that boss is mad cringe.
Yeah.
Do you
Never
think-
knew-
do you
I was
think they
actually-
would-
Yeah.
Do you think they would care about the cap form thing if you couldn't play Varadrid? Like, if,
I don't know,
If
they've
you
been-
had to, I don't know.
They've been bug fixing a lot of stuff. So there's been a lack of dungeon tuning itself, but there's been a lot of bug fixes for a lot of stuff that's in Mythic Plus. Has been a bit interesting. I'm not really sure. I think that mechanic needs to be changed though. I don't think you should be stunned. I think that is ridiculous.
Yeah, having it's random as well, right? Like, I don't think it can target the same person twice in a row, but apart from that, it's random.
Can't
And
pop a
then-
defensive.
Can it? It
Log
can't target
CC.
twice in a row.
I don't think so, but I might be making that up. But
I think it can, but I don't know. I just don't
hopefully
think
not.
you should be fully stunned.
Yeah.
Or maybe like I feel like you should either be able to DPS your root or whatever.
I agree.
All right. Back to the Patreon names. Never Nude, Ja, King of Skills, Chromed, Trekkie, Chewy. I know there's a very popular Tettles clip jumping in Blackrook to avoid I-beam, but knowing Tettles, we should also know it's a DPS loss. This is the tip you gave of jumping on the second boss.
Oh yeah, maybe that's only a good tip if you're an Aug Evoker or a BM Hunter or a healer.
Or Moonkin, yeah.
Did you post a video on that? Is that not fixed yet? It's probably fixed if you posted a video.
Not yet.
Salty Seni, ZivXX, Necris, Tankdill, Nevuk, EV, Year of the Spear is extended into 2023. Bless up. No Trick, I forgot I was subbed here. By the way, Year of the Spear enjoyers, if you're playing with less than 7 melee or less than 8 melee on Tindril, you should probably just have a Hunter swap serve. I don't know. Like, I don't think.
Feral.
Yeah, or Boomy Feral is the first thing you should do, but yeah. Hunter to serve if they can to get an 8th melee that's probably good. Dymat, Rework Mistweaver, Nyx, even if you accidentally clicked Moonkin form one time, you become a Tettles. Gallic, Brusif, Dratnoshar's Abyss. Fun tip, the debuff from dispelling a decayed herb's dot makes you immune to other decayed herb dots. Okay. Msanity, Xena, Rogue is now good enough for Prog, but still bad enough to be sat for SLG, bless up. Red Color, youtube.com/workbringer, Alphabet Soup, Druid Friends of Nevermore, number 1 Simski for Trelsky. Lurker would like to remind everybody that loose mobs in the back are a lifestyle choice and shouldn't be scorned at in every key. Milk, Sifei, Pone, Windwalker monks deal with nerfs by rolling with the punches. Thesaurus.com is a powerful tool. The Marsh Hare, my raid buff is my great personality and good looks. I play Ellie Shaman. Thank you for listening to the Titanforge podcast, as brought to you by Daddy Dratty, Grampy Trelsky, and the Tettles Effect. Big Head Small Brain, King's Honor, fellow Horde, it's me, your newest guild member, Juniper. Resubscribing to let everybody know that the Snake Boss slaps my pug raid. Rat Run, Jatto and Honeychunk Forever, Chauncey, that moment when your tank says, now where's my ranged at, during Jade Serpent, Dragon Boss, and Bricks Your Key. Feral Druids in the MDI, you've got to be kidding me. Feral Druids in the Race to World first, even. Oh, you don't have that yet? Boom. Sire Dematicus, tales of demonology's demise were greatly exaggerated. Friend of the Grummels. The small mammal living in Dratnos' shirt, Sapphire. Ratting my alts into my friend's 20s is starting to put a strain on our relationships. But hey, that's showbiz, baby. For DK hero talents, make Rider of the Apocalypse able to mount in combat. I'm losing my raid to Neltharion weak auras. I can definitely believe it's not butter. Rock and Stone. So did Dratnos win the fight? And number 1 mythic guild with a 1-day-a-week raid schedule and a bunch of Canadians NA. And sooner or later, everyone sees the time knife. Thank you all for the support. That's good names in there this week.
I think unless you're JPC?
Yeah, I saw JPC had a tweet where he's done like 50, 60 lowers now and still doesn't have his knife. That's unlucky.
Ooh, that's horrible. I had to do 45 dark arts for the neck.
Oh.
That took a long time.
Ooh. I have a guild that still doesn't have their ring from Darkheart.
Ooh.
Yeah. All right. First question comes from Flex that says, and this is for Tobo, how much do you despise augmentation on a scale from 1 to 10?
I mean, we did speak about this a little bit earlier. I do actually like playing the spec, but it's just there's two different beasts. The assigning everything, like I hate it. Like it's so bad, and that's probably a 10, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then playing it is like, you know, a 7, 8. It's like it's good. Maybe not like the best I've ever played, but I like it. It's good.
All right, our next question comes from Penguins that says, preference on Heroic Week versus Race to World First split jail. Personally, I think the best solution is a Heroic Week with capped M+, capped high M+, but interested to hear from a first-hand victim. What do you've now played obviously a couple tiers without Heroic Week. Do you miss it?
Yep. It definitely, not having it definitely makes the start of Mythic like very, very stressful. It's like go, all gas. You also don't know which character is your main until like day 3 of Mythic Week, which is crazy. Well, I mean, day 2 probably last time, but I don't know. I think a lot of people miss it. It makes maybe it'll make us make us do more splits. Sorry, but it would be less stressful for sure.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
I kind of like it being gone. Like I like everything just coming out, but it is very hectic that week.
Absolutely. I think it's good for the game to not have heroic week, but for us specifically.
Yeah. I kind of wonder though if heroic week would start to like suck even more, especially if we got to a point where it's like you need all 7 days of heroic week, and so you have to like travel to the venue before heroic week now, because you can't like lose, because it used to be that there'd be a travel day during heroic week for the Race to World First guilds, and that's like,
Yep.
but would that be possible, especially like with the upgrade system? You could be farming avoidance and sockets from M plus and then get higher eye level pieces and then upgrade them, and that would be cringe. So
I don't know. I mean, the upgrade system also kind of throws a wrench in things too. It makes it a lot more valuable to do Mythic Plus, I would say, just more generally speaking. So you have these guilds do a lot more breaks during their heroic splits to also go do Mythic Plus to fill out the last couple of pieces they need.
All right. Next question comes from Theun in Discord that says, "Are you looking forward to Fated, especially Fated raid or specifically Fated raids? I think most people enjoy having a new dungeon or PvP season. And if you could change something about Fated raids, what would you have changed?"
Is this to me or
Sure,
to
yeah.
everyone?
You take first. We can all
take
talk
first,
about it then. Yeah.
What would I change about Fated?
Yeah, obviously not just like, oh, don't do it and make a new raid instead, but like if you could do like a within the scope change to Fated.
I think changing the dungeons was maybe like in Shadowlands with how you had, the same dungeons for the whole expansion. It was a bit of a mix up and change things in a weird way. Like maybe I don't know like a perfect solution, because it's not really like a serious season either. I don't know like a full solution, but it feels like a little bit too much work to learn all the new dungeons for such a short kind of off-season-y thing.
Yeah.
True.
But that's maybe my only like grievance with it. I like the dinar system, and having all 3 raids is pretty cool. It can be bad, like if you have to assign every single boss in, and then it changes each week. I think that's kind of a bad part. But yeah, the raids are usually easier and nerfed and everything, full gear.
Yeah, I like that part. I do think that the affixes last time were a little bit weird, like the raid affixes. Maybe those they could rework those or try something new with how they, make the fights crazy or whatever, modify them. But yeah, I think it was a cool idea, but obviously like I'm sad that it's happening instead of a raid tier, which is what it feels like this time. So
Yeah. Obviously, I would take it as just an off season, but replacing raid tier, I don't think it could ever fully replace raid tier, right?
I mean, I think for me the biggest issue with Fated raids in particular isn't I don't think it's the reward structure. I think the reward structure with the dinars and stuff like that you were talking about is actually quite good. I think that mixing and matching past raid stuff with current raid stuff, like if maybe we get like mix and match tier even potentially with like the season, that actually also can be kind of interesting. I think that functionally for me the issue is like I raid to raid competitively. I don't raid to do farm of an old raid tier, right? It's kind of why I don't play like Classic or Season of Discovery or something like that, right? Because I don't care to do old content in the same way.
all right, our next question comes from Rat Run in Discord that says, "Do you guys think the Race to World First guilds, not just the major 3, but Instant Dollars, Honolulu, BDG?" I think Honolulu may have died as well. I think that
Honolulu's dead.
I've heard, or maybe gone down to much shorter hours. I've heard that there's some
guilds are falling.
I've heard that they are among the guilds that have been caught in the tendril, the tendril wall that has claimed. I think it's claimed imperative and conspiracy as well. I could be just making up all of these though. These guilds could all be alive.
It did claim comparative. I can confirm that one. I saw that one.
Yeah. So, but anyways, the Race World First guilds, and I guess also the other guilds in the top 20 or something as well, would ever agree on a rule set where the mythic boss kills would count towards a point value, so the first 5 or so bosses aren't just throwaway bosses. The lesser known guilds might just have a chance of earning more recognition or putting some pressure on the top 3 guilds.
So like, I don't think Tendril dies week 1 like I don't think Tendril. I don't even know if Smolderon dies week 1 unless you have 10 or 12 splits, right? Which is inherently going to make you lose or
did
gain
ID
fewer
get it in the
points.
first week? I think they did, right? They do 5 splits. I don't know when they killed Smolderon. Let's see. They killed
They
it
killed it first week.
November 19th. Yeah, so that's week 1 with 5 splits.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Sunday of week 1 with 5. So yeah, but anyway, sorry. Your point is like you still need multiple splits, which is a lot.
You need a lot of splits, and I feel like that really gives advantage to NA guilds even more so than we already see.
Yeah, if there was some way that killing the first 6 fast mattered for like winning the race to world first, NA would win every race to world first for sure, right? Like that would be the only reason Liquid didn't kill the first 6 first is because that's not what they're trying to do. But if they wanted to do, like, if their goal was to kill the first 6 mythic bosses first, they would have done that 100% of the time. Which I don't think, like, the only reason that the lesser known guilds do that right now is because Liquid are literally busy doing splits, right? So,
Tobo, I have
know.
a question. Do you think that, and not, this isn't necessarily within the scope of this question, but more just broadly, do you think that guilds would ever kind of come together to actually come up with a rule set for standards for the race to world first? Do you think that's not ever going to happen?
I mean, I definitely think we got a bit like closer together with. I think like BlizzCon helped bring the guilds a bit closer together, be a bit more friendly and everything. But I don't know if it would ever make sense for like us to make a rule set. Maybe if it was like a Blizzard thing where it was like there's no like bias kind of, or like I don't know if bias is even the correct thing to be concerned about, but it's just kind of like I don't know if it would ever make sense for like us to make our own rule set, and then it's also like this other guild could, I mean, could just not follow the rules, and then you wouldn't know or something like that. But you wouldn't really expect a guild to like zoom past everyone else by like out of nowhere, because that doesn't really happen at this point. But yeah,
I do think that something like the tournament realm race that Max suggested would be a nice way to, because like the barrier to entry into actually competing for world first is there's a huge amount of skill gap between Liquid Echo and then Method and then the field.
And then the field, yeah.
But there's also a huge requirement for doing all those splits, getting all those helpers, having all the weak aura people. And I do think running something on TR would at least remove the splits and the helpers part of that. Which would mean that like maybe guilds like ID or BDG or something. Well, the BDG does a lot of splits and helpers too, but like guilds like ID could maybe actually like win or at least test themselves against it. Although the thing is, like, I mean, the weak auras and the analyst side of things would still be super valuable for a race like that. They'd be even more valuable even.
I mean, it would remove stuff like, I know, gold requirements or something like that. Would like get removed with a tournament race.
Yeah.
Tournament run race. I think that would be good because, like, gold is like time when you're boosting. And you can also equate it to money through like wild tokens, and it's like, when someone buys the BOE ring for 10 million gold, that's worth more than a ring that someone's gonna have on that actual finger. It's like, it's crazy, like the amount of like I don't know time and like money equivalence, I guess, is goes into the gold and everything at least.
I will say, if it gets put on TR, it makes doing Mythic Plus a lot more complicated. That is something that would maybe be a bit harder.
Well, with like not being with like people outside the guild, you mean?
I mean, not being able to get whatever key you need on demand.
Yeah, I mean,
whoever,
it would.
Right?
I assume that the idea of the TR race is like a gear not mattering race, right?
Yeah.
Like TR with
I feel like there'd be no M plus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just a vendor with gear. Like,
which is that's how like MDI works, right? Is you don't have to have to gear up for it. But yeah, I mean that is like something where should that be removed from competitive rating, because like so much of competitive rating is gearing up and identifying the right classes and specs and getting gear on them, right? Like that is a skill and something that matters. Okay, final question from Twitch chat from Zir AUS says, are you guys in debt after this tier? Speaking about the gold issue, like, are you guys, how is the gold? How much do you know roughly how much you spent this year? I know there are probably people who do know and you have no idea.
I'm actually not sure. Like, okay. I'm not really the person to ask on that.
I'm pretty sure nobody's in debt after this tier because I think it was a pretty cheap tier, all things considered. Like,
the number
costs
is
are
in
low.
the number is probably in like a few hundred million or something like that. You would assume, but
yeah,
I don't have like the actual figure.
Sepulcher, like Ny'alotha through Sepulcher, the costs were approaching the billions of gold for some of those tiers.
Jeez, yeah.
So it's down a lot since they made Mythic BOEs not tradable, but you're still paying gold caps for some of those heroic socketed leech BOEs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that group loot also changed a decent amount with how much you're going to end up spending. On top of that, there's I mean, there's no corruption. Dude, can you imagine?
Corruption? Dude, if they ran corruption tier again now, that the gold cost would be in the multiple billions for Liquid and Echo. That would be very nasty. It would be especially rough for you guys because you're on the same servers as Method, who would be pushing up the prices very much compared to what Liquid would face.
Yeah, I mean, it was even more fun when we had Pieces and Method and us at the same time.
Pieces too,
yeah. Cool. All right. Well, that's all of our questions here. Tobo, you have any shout outs or anything you want to promote? Any place people can find you on the internet and stuff you want to tell about?
I mean, I guess I have a shout out I can say. My dad's always like watching and supporting, and he's very cool. He's very proud, and he's always like encourages me and everything. So that guy's like I don't know, my number one fan. You know, like that's cool.
That's really cool.
That is super.
Love to see that.
Yeah, like
does he play WoW?
No, he doesn't understand like what's actually going on or anything. He only gets what like I've explained to him really, like, and it's still, you know, it takes a long time to actually understand what's going on, but yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's great to have you here.
Yep.
And we'll be back next week. We've got Evade on for a M+ focused show. We've got some dungeons to talk about, so that's going to be the plan for next week. But yeah, thank you so much, Tobo, and we'll see you then. Bye, everybody.
GG.